Hello and welcome. Good evening. You're watching NewsTrack here on India Today. I'm Akshita Nandagopal. This evening, over the next 30 minutes, we're getting you all the latest updates coming in on the big political battle over the Election Commission's SIR experience, a special intensive revision exercise that's currently underway in Bihar to go ahead and scrutinize voter rolls. We're going to get you details and a deep dive into the data of the votes that have been eliminated so far by the Election Commission. What's the impact it actually has on the ground if we were to take it through the 2020 election results. But before that, just a quick look at exactly what makes India Today's election coverage stand out. It's our election intelligence dashboard. We're prepped, we're ready, we're on the countdown essentially to the Bihar elections now expected in just a few months from now. So just a quick glimpse of what to expect in our election intelligence dashboard, and therefore also jog your memories on exactly what the last election in Bihar looked like. Remember that there are in Bihar, in fact, 243 seats. It was a very, very interesting election in 2020, and after that, so many changes, U-turns, and a complete change in scenario. But let me break it down for you first with the results that came in 2020. Of the 243 seats, the single largest party was in fact the RJD with 75, but the BJP JDU combined easily managed to sweep Bihar with 74 and 43. Mind you, this was the 2020 result. And then you had a series of developments where in 2022, Nitish Kumar left the BJP, joined the Mahagathbandhan, formed the Mahagathbandhan, and then you had the RJD with Tejasvi as the Deputy Chief Minister. So I'll break it down party-wise also for you as far as essentially the vote share was concerned. You had that happen, and then in January 2024, the JDU and the BJP came back together. But here's what makes the Bihar election so interesting. If you look at the percentage in the seats and otherwise, you look at RJD at 23.4%. That's what makes this election so interesting. Will the scenario change just because of an SIR experience and an exercise? Who really will benefit from that kind of an exercise? We're getting you a very detailed report coming up. This is our election intelligence dashboard that we'll keep referring to for the data of the 2020 election results in Bihar.
The special intensive revision war from Delhi to Bihar. Bihar voter list trimmed by 61 lakh. Eye-opening data on the 61 lakh impact. The senior intensive revision exercise. Who gains, who loses? Opposition smells conspiracy. Mulls election boycott.
ये प्रोसेस को ठीक मान रही है सरकार, यानी फर्जीवाड़ा हो रहा है पूरी तरीके से केवल संख्या को पूरी करने के लिए, यानी सरकार जो है फर्जीवाड़ा करवा रही है.
Bihar survey reality check. That is our top focus on NewsTrack.
And let's begin with the latest footage coming in of Prime Minister Modi in London. He's just met with King Charles III, and first images of the meeting we have accessed here on India Today. There's the picture there for you of Prime Minister Modi meeting with King Charles. It's the first meeting between the two, particularly after Charles took over as the monarch of England. An important one because Prime Minister Modi in this power pack visit in the United Kingdom has already met with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and after their historic free trade agreement, now a meeting of the Prime Minister with the British Royal as well, with the monarch King Charles III. There have been brief encounters previously. There have been conversations on the phone, one pull aside that took place rather briefly in 2023, but this is the first in-person meet happening in the UK and the first one since in fact Charles took over as the king. And now, as King Charles III, he's meeting with Prime Minister Modi. We're awaiting details of really what was discussed, but you can see the friendship in this picture, a brief handshake, as the first pictures emerge from Sandringham House, which is where the meeting has taken place. Right after this, Prime Minister Modi is going to be taking off for the Maldives. Short visit, but extremely crucial, and has, of course, many takeaways when you look at particularly the free trade agreement and the fact that you have a message going across from the UK that India is a trusted friend, a trusted ally, and that's why it's not just a meeting with the government but also with the royals of Britain. First picture on your screens there. Hopefully we'll get some details in the coming minutes on exactly what was discussed in this meeting, but also to remind you that this meeting comes just about a few weeks after King Charles also met with the Indian cricket team, where he did express his interest not just in cricket but also said that he was very closely following the Indian cricket team. But the first message, a formal one that's come in from the royal family, that's confirmed the meeting with Prime Minister Modi. I'll just read out the message for you. It says, and I quote, "This afternoon, the King received the Prime Minister of the Republic of India, Narendra Modi, at Sandringham House. During their time together, His Majesty was given a tree to be planted this autumn, inspired by the environmental initiative launched by the Prime Minister, which encourages people to plant a tree in tribute to their mothers." So a very thoughtful message there that's been put out. And in the first meeting between Prime Minister Modi and King Charles, a very thoughtful gift from the Prime Minister, as he's given a tree to, in fact, King Charles III to encourage an initiative by Prime Minister Modi, which encourages people to plant a tree in tribute to their mother. So that's the picture there of Prime Minister Modi and King Charles III. I'm assuming that the tree behind them is the one that they just planted. Pranay Upadhyay is joining us. But before that, Lavina Tandon is joining us live from London with the latest updates. Lavina, first picture on our screens of the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and King Charles III. We understand that there has been some communication that's come in also from the royals on this meeting. Take us through that.
Yes, can I first pardon myself for saying I'm talking to you from inside the car. We're coming out from Luton Hoo Hotel, where the Prime Minister stayed and where the press conference happened. And this all happened in a very rapt manner. And now we are able to say, and this is a very location quite inside. So we are in the car on the way out. Now, coming back to the King, yes, they share a great bond. Actually, King Charles III shares a great bond with India, and he's very big on forest conservation, climate change, and giving him a sapling is what which is going to be planted, we were told, in autumn, in the remembrance of the mother. So it's a very nice gesture. And the King was in Sandringham, which is in Norfolk, which is about 160 miles north of London. And so now he takes off to Maldives, and the royal family, of course, has... Sorry, can you hear me?
Go ahead, Lavina. Yes, of course.
Okay. So, yes, this was a very kind gesture, and he did call upon as a courtesy visit just before he leaves for Maldives.
So we're expecting that footage also of the Prime Minister now headed from the UK to the Maldives. But a beautiful gesture by Prime Minister Modi there for King Charles III, gifting him a sapling, which, as Buckingham Palace has confirmed, was planted at Sandringham House. That picture, in all likelihood, we're going to assume, is of Prime Minister Modi with King Charles III, with the sapling that they've planted right behind them. Hopefully, we'll get more videos and images of that meeting. But thanks for the moment, Lavina, for joining us with all of those details. All right, let's move on to our top focus here on the news track. A special intensive revision war is underway from Delhi to Bihar. There's been a political storm that we've been tracking closely here on India Today, which you've seen too, brewing over elections, and not over votes cast, but the names that are being erased. As of now, with the EC's exercise, 61 lakh voters have been removed from the Bihar electoral rolls. And that's triggered a war of words. But what we've done here on India Today is we've done a deep dive with those numbers, putting it in contrast to the 2020 elections and seeing what a difference actually that number can make. Mind you, this is with data that came in 24 hours ago. So at that point, it was 51 lakh votes that were removed from the voter rolls. So with that number of 51 votes being eliminated, can it actually be a game changer in an election? We put that to test in the 2020 election results. Here's what it threw up.
उनको लग रहा है कि चुनाव हार जाएंगे, जब तक नकली वोटर नहीं रहेगा तब तक चुनाव कैसे जीतेंगे। तो नकली वोटर के आधार पर जब जालसाजी ही करना है तो जालसाजी का क्या जवाब है। जब जालसाजी पकड़ी गई तो कहेंगे कि अब हम चुनाव नहीं लड़ेंगे।
The JDU is referring to Tejasvi Yadav's hint of boycotting the election as a sign of fear. The fear of losing battleground Bihar. If that is indeed the case, what is there to be afraid of? Is this fear related to the removal of 52 lakh voters from the voter list? Remember, during the special intensive revision exercise, a total of 52,30,126 voters were found not residing at their registered address. Among them, 18,66,280 voters were found to be deceased. 26,01,031 have permanently relocated elsewhere. 7,50,742 were found to be enrolled in more than one location. In addition, there are 11,484 names whose whereabouts have not yet been confirmed. So does Tejasvi Yadav believe that the removal of the 5.2 million names can influence the election?
जो इलेक्शन कमीशन का जो प्रेस नोट है उसमें हम लोगों ने देखा है कि 52 या 55 लाख के करीब जो है अनुपस्थित पाए गए हैं। अब ये इस पूरे प्रोसेस पे ही हम लोग जो है सवाल उठा रहे हैं कि आप के जो BLOs हैं वो तो खुद ही साइन करके खुद ही अपलोड कर रहे हैं पूरे प्रोसेस का, तो पारदर्शिता तो पूरे प्रोसेस में ही फॉलो नहीं की गई है।
If we break down the 52,30,126 voters removed across all 243 seats in Bihar, it comes down to an average of about 22,739 voters per assembly seat. So indeed, if over 22,000 names are removed from each seat for legitimate reasons, as per the Election Commission, what kind of impact could that have? In 2020 assembly elections, 153 out of 243 seats, that is 63% of seats, had a victory margin of less than 20,000 votes. 80 seats had margins between 10,000 to 20,000 votes. 41 seats had margins between 5,000 to 10,000 votes. 32 seats had margins below 5,000 votes. And 11 seats were decided by a margin of 500 to 1,000 votes. Is that why Tejasvi Yadav and the opposition feel that the names being removed will hurt them and affect the election results? Although there's another reality. In 2020, out of 153 seats, where the victory margin was under 20,000 votes, the NDA won around 78 seats, and the rest, 69 seats, went to the Mahagathbandhan. So does the opposition believe that only their voters are being removed from the rolls?
जब वो चुनावी राजनीति में हार सुनिश्चित हार के डर से भाजपा अब इलेक्शन कमीशन को आगे कर दिया, तो स्वाभाविक है कि हमारी लड़ाई इलेक्शन कमीशन से नहीं है। हमारी लड़ाई देश की जमहूरियत के लिए है, लोकतंत्र बचाने की लड़ाई है, संविधान बचाने की लड़ाई है। इसमें हम कैसे भाग ले सकते हैं? सही समय पर प्रोटेस्ट नहीं दर्ज करेंगे तो लोकतंत्र में इस देश के इतिहास में याद रखा जाएगा कि हम राष्ट्रीय जनता दल और महागठबंधन के लोग मौन साधे हुए थे।
जनता का जो जनमानस है बिहार में, वो देख करके वो घोषणा कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि जीवन में तो संघर्ष किए नहीं, उनको परसा हुआ थाली मिल गया, तो अब देख रहे हैं कि स्पष्ट हार है, तो एक नया पैतरा दे रहे हैं कि हम चुनाव नहीं लड़ेंगे। वो चुनाव भी लड़ेंगे और हारेंगे भी बुरी तरह, ये बिहार में स्पष्ट है।
For now, the truth is that no one knows which way the removed voters would have voted. And now consider these two realities regarding voter deletions. The first picture, in the last Lok Sabha election, the NDA received around 2.04 crore votes, 47.23% of the total votes. And the Mahagathbandhan got around 1.7 crore votes, that is 39.21%. The gap between both alliances was approximately 34 lakh votes. Now, if 52.3 lakh voters are removed and we calculate based on NDA's 47.23% vote share in 2024, that equals about 24.7 lakh votes, which, when divided across 243 assembly seats, comes to around 10,000 votes per seat that could be affected. Similarly, based on India's alliance's 39.21% vote share, they could lose around 20.5 lakh votes, which comes to approximately 8,500 votes per seat across 243 seats. So, in that sense, both NDA and the opposition are losing voters, not just one side. The ruling side is asking, why is Tejasvi Yadav more concerned about dead voters than living ones?
चिंता है तो मेरा ऐसा उनसे अनुरोध है कि आखिर में ये अदृश्य मतदाता जो हैं धरती पर होंगे, आसमान में होंगे, स्वर्ग में होंगे, तो एक बार खोज करके उसको मतदाता सूची में डलवा दे तो बिहार का बड़ा फ़ायदा होगा, उनको भी राजनीतिक फ़ायदा होगा। लेकिन ये अदृश्य मतदाता कौन है जिनके लिए वो बहुत चिंतित हैं?
But Tejasvi Yadav has hit back with this question. If the Election Commission was updating the voter list on January 25th, 2025, why did not it know earlier about these 18 lakh deceased voters?
नाम जोड़ना घटाना मृत्यु जिसकी होगी तो हर साल जो प्रक्रिया चलती है, लेकिन जो पुनरीक्षण जो हुआ था हर चुनाव से पहले और फरवरी में जो लिस्ट आई थी उसके बारे में तो चुप। जब फरवरी में आ गया तो इसकी क्या जरूरत पड़ गई अचानक से? ये तो सवाल उठता है, इसका भी कोई जवाब नहीं।
Until now, political fights over voter list additions and deletions used to happen after election results. This time, it is happening even before the election. Whether the benefit goes to the ruling side or the opposition, the fear is that the real loss is to public faith in the electoral process. Bureau Report, India Today.
So very, very interesting numbers that have emerged from our report where we did a comparison. If so many votes are down, if so many voters aren't part of the roll, what would it mean in the 2020 scenario? Things have changed, of course, and that number will further go up in the next 24 hours. But as it was with the numbers we showed you, it's clearly creating a dent on ground. Let me bring in on this broadcast Sanjay Kumar, co-director of Lok Niti CSDS, a psephologist, Mr. Amitabh Tiwari, political strategist, commentator, election analyst and researcher, also with us. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time. Amitabh Tiwari, I'd like to begin with you. In the data that we've put out, where essentially when we look at really the 52 lakh number, it's gone, of course, much about that, about 61 lakh now. But at 52 lakh, essentially it's about 22,000 average voters removed per seat. And the question that immediately comes to my mind is what happens to those seats where it went down to the wire? Do you think that those are the seats where you'll see the maximum impact perhaps of these voter names being removed?
So see, essentially if 22,739 voters per seat are being removed, then it effectively implies roughly 70 to 75 voters per polling booth. Correct. Now the question, the bigger question is if these are deceased and have permanently shifted, whether they voted in 2020 or not is a question mark. Correct. That only the ECI knows whether these guys have voted or not voted. Even if they have voted, their voting percentage may not be 100%. It would be in line with what was the overall voting percentage, which was around 60%. And whom they voted, nobody would know. Whether they voted Mahagathbandhan or they voted NDA, it is very, very difficult to know. And you have rightly apportioned it between the NDA and the Mahagathbandhan. The bigger question is, if the opposition has problems with, let's say, this 18 lakh people who have been removed and they feel that these are legible voters, then that is just 25 per booth. And with RJD having a statewide presence and the single largest party in the state, they can easily identify these voters and bring them to the district headquarters or the administrative divisions. So that is what the play is. I mean, what is the problem? If the problem is that these guys do exist, then they are somewhere in Bihar itself. They can be
Yeah.
easily brought up and you can go and cover and all the national media can go and cover. Correct. The problem is that, and but one thing which they are raising is valid, is that to remove deceased voters or voters who have shifted permanently, a SIR was not required. This should
Yeah.
have been done in the summary revision. SIR was to weed out illegal citizens. But out of this 52 lakh or 61 lakhs, we have still not got what is the number of illegal citizens who have been removed.
You're right.
Correct.
We don't have that breakdown, but in the next 24 hours, when this exercise ends, maybe we'll get that data from the Election Commission and then we'll be able to break that down further. But looking at that 52 lakh number, and I'll bring in Mr. Sanjay Kumar on this, if we break that down, particularly based on the 2024 vote share, Mr. Sanjay Kumar, it does look like based on the votes lost to the assembly seat, it is the NDA that's hit harder than the Mahagathbandhan. And so, you know, amid all of the politics, that's a very, very interesting and important data point.
No, I think if you're projecting it on 2024 Lok Sabha election, so, and I think what you're trying to do is to proportionate these 52 lakh voters in terms of the vote share polled by the different alliances. Since
Correct, vote
NDA
share.
had polled larger number of votes, so the greater proportion of these will definitely go in their favor. So it's not that it will hurt the NDA going by that logic, because in some of the constituencies, NDA alliance partner may have won the constituency with a very large margin. It will matter in an election scenario when we are heading for a close election. If it is a one-sided election, and the example which you have cited is about a one-sided election. 2024 election was a one-sided election. And in such a scenario, whether you are removing 52 lakh or whether you are removing 39 lakh, doesn't make a lot of difference, because a party or an alliance has won the election with a huge margin. It will not make much difference.
No, so do you think, Mr. Sanjay Kumar, the kind of questions that the opposition has raised over the exercise itself is very much valid? Because there are also holes constantly being poked on how the EC is moving with this exercise, particularly in the border areas.
No, the questions which are being raised by the opposition are valid, because they are not referring to 2024 Lok Sabha election. We are not heading for a Lok Sabha election. Bihar is heading for an assembly election. And
Correct.
you know, the assembly election has been much tighter compared to the Lok Sabha election. You did show the data about the assembly election results of 2020. And we know that election was very, very close. And if such a large number of voters are removed, and if we know that generally there is a belief that people who are on the lower ends of socio-economic margins, they would be the ones who would find it difficult to produce the kind of documents which are being required. So the proportion of voters who are getting removed would be higher among the lower socio-economic ladder, among the poor and the lower class voters. And if we go by the post-survey data, we know that a larger proportion of them votes for RJD alliance. I'm not saying everyone votes in favor of RJD alliance. So the loser, it proportionately is going to be RJD Mahagathbandhan alliance.
Looking at these data, these are numbers, let's be very clear. And so there's no clarity on really what, who, where, why, none of that. Do you think that's what it essentially comes down to decide whether an SIR will actually have an impact for which party, etc.? Do you think it comes down to the demography of who, and that's what matters the most, Amitabh Tiwari?
Of course, as Sanjay sir has said, we need to have the breakup of the voters. Who are these voters? Age, gender, income groups, caste, religion, etc. And also we need to understand that whether these guys voted in 2024 or not. Whether these guys were dead, let's say 18 lakh, and they still remained on the voter list, let's say, for some error, because they were still on the voter list even in January 1, 2025. So if there was an error, if they were on the voter list in 2024 by error, then their removal or existence on the voter list does not matter much, because they would not have voted, unless we are alleging that there is mass bogus voting, correct? That these guys were not there, but they still voted, etc.
Yeah.
So the demographic of the people who have been excluded is fairly important. And for a party like RJD, which has polling booths, polling agents across the state, we can discount Congress for some time because Congress is not that powerful in northern states. They can easily pick up this if there is mass scale rigging in this process. Correct, because
Look,
the booth agent knows the people
yeah.
who have been removed.
Look, impact is something that maybe will take time to analyze and read through, but clearly at this point, the opposition is already crying foul. In so much so that when questions are asked, Tejasvi Yadav suggests that boycott is something that's on the table. It's an option that they are considering right now in the run-up to the Bihar elections. Thank you very much to both our panelists, our analysts for joining us on this broadcast. Mr. Sanjay Kumar, Amitabh Tiwari, thank you for your time and for joining us here on NewsTrack. It's an interesting election that we're counting down to in Bihar, of course, made a whole lot more interesting because of the EC exercise. That ends in 24 hours. As of the latest data from the Election Commission, over 61 lakh votes have been gone, eliminated from the voter roll. That number will go up further, but a detailed breakdown will really be needed to understand what will be the impact of these kind of names being removed. Who will it impact the most? Will it be the NDA? Will it be the Mahagathbandhan? We are going to track and decode that for you. That's all we have time for in this edition of NewsTrack. Thanks very much for tuning in.